Whoa!
Whoa!
Oh shit! Fuck you,
yeah.
Night Sky. Fuck you. Welcome to episode 8 of the Story Continues cast. We are here to talk money in the bank for next week, June 6th, I believe the date is. It's coming up quick. This is one of the most exciting pay-per-views, obviously, of the year for WWE because you got two winners who are going to get, briefcases that you can literally cash in a title shot in all year round. We just had Damian Priest cash in at Mania 40. Huge crowd pop for someone that many people never thought was going to actually be world champion. Here we are. Today, I'm joined by a new guest who I'm very excited to have on because this is actually our first ever, actual interaction. We've always collaborated and commented and helped each other out, but we've never actually gotten to do something on a call and talk it out real time. This is FTI Matt. Is there a better name I can refer to you as?
Honestly, Matt is perfect.
Matt,
I'm
Matt too.
That was stunning.
So great name, bro. Great name.
No biasy.
No bias. Just the best name in the world, most common name. What can I say? Gift from God. If you know, you know.
Gift from God.
If you know, you know. Well, welcome back. If you want to say just a quick little thing about FTI and whatnot, I know you've been away doing your thing, so just a quick little update. Like, how you doing? How's life? Like, is the content coming back? Like, what you been up to, man?
Yo, wholeheartedly, with FTI and everything, I kind of feel like right now that's kind of on the back burner of everything going on this year. Would obviously love to, of course, get back into content creating. But outside of FTI, things are going really good. As you mentioned, with Money in the Bank creeping up really fast, that's what I'm kind of setting my eyes on. But I can't complain about the day-to-day, man. I'm actually really excited to do this. I have never been on specifically a wrestling podcast, and I was telling my girlfriend about it. And I was like, I could talk for 24 hours straight. This is one of my biggest passions, so to be able to come on, talk about Money in the Bank, which I get the opportunity to go to, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Oh yeah, man. I'm so excited to have you on because we've always messaged each other with this passion. I think it was, I'm trying to think of some moments, the Cena return of Money in the Bank, you name it. These big moments that happen in wrestling. And you just message everyone you know that watches wrestling, which you can count on one hand. There's just not many wrestling fans, at least that I know. I finally converted Night Sky. I'm trying to convert people to becoming wrestling fans. But to have actual passionate fans that have been around for so long just feels so rare. And you've been watching for quite some time, right?
Yeah, I hate it because I have the memory of an elephant where it's a really you can kind of remember everything. I specifically remember September 2006. Started watching Raw. I was 7 years old, but I just remember it was during the John Cena, Booker T, Big Show triple threat at Cyber Sunday. And dude, just these random matches that I remember so vividly. And then I think I watched it afterwards, but I remember watching Jeff Hardy versus Johnny Nitro, and I was just these two guys right here are who I follow with. Kind of fell off on the John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, but Jeff Hardy's been my day one since I've been watching wrestling since day one.
Oh yeah, bro, that's great taste. I mean, Jeff, when he had his whole, WWE Championship run, that was just feel good, king in the moment. Then CM Punk comes in and ruins it all. But that's yes, an argument, fan session for a different day. Especially as you wear the CM Punk shirt on the podcast.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man.
Yeesh. But yeah, I mean, as you briefly had mentioned, you'll actually be at Money in the Bank on, again, June 6th, I believe is the hard date. But right in Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. So, I mean, how are you feeling for that? Are you excited for this card, which we're going to talk about later? Do you feel giddy for it? Or are you just all right, I got tickets, I'll be there,
So honestly, I remember last year when they were in the UK, Money in the Bank was on Canada Day last year. So I was like, oh my God, a day to have off. And I remember specifically Damian Priest is climbing the ladder and the crowd slowly building up the boos. And I was just to my girlfriend, could you imagine being in a crowd where you're watching the guy you don't want to win in real time win? I was like, if I was there, this would suck. But at the same time, it's one of the pay-per-views I've always wanted to go to. And then this past February, Triple H announced, hey, we're coming to take over Toronto for a heat wave weekend. And I was like, oh my God, are they coming for SummerSlam? But I think that was already announced. And then it was Money in the Bank. And I was like, holy fuck.
That's a big one.
there's only 3 paper. I've done my favorite one, which is SummerSlam. But besides that, I want to hit a Mania like you have. I want to hit a Rumble like you have. But Money in the Bank, like I guess like the big 4, excluding Survivor Series, I definitely wanted to always go to. Yeah. And then once it was announced, every day on Twitter, I'm doing hashtag WWE Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is a search term. It's just all these stock investors talking about literal Money in the Bank. And I was like, no, give me a pre-sale code. And then I called into work that morning. I was like, hey, I'm supposed to open, but like there's this pre-sale thing happening for something I'm interested in. I come in at 12, bought my tickets right away. And every day at the back of my mind, I'm just like 30 days away, 20 days away, etc., etc. So to say I'm excited is an understatement. And what I'm really excited for, which is the opposite of what AEW is doing right now, I love the smaller cards. So I really enjoy like a 5 to 6 match card. So the card right now is perfect because I'm able to follow everything, and being there live, I won't have like that 6 match, like I guess like drowsiness where your anticipation, your excitement's so good. By match 6, you're like, fuck, we have 5 more matches to go. But yeah, man, as a short answer, I'm very excited.
Hell yeah. I mean, you touched upon it, but I do think, WWE's always had that big 4. The WrestleMania, the Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Survivor Series has been getting no love recently. And I feel like people kind of know that the true big 4 is kind of the Mania, SummerSlam, Rumble, Money in the Bank. Like, Money in the Bank has always been an anticipated pay-per-view. It has stakes where literally you're watching the next world champion. 9 times out of 10, they don't always win, but 9 times out of 10, that's gonna be your next world champion or WWE champion right there. And just that, I feel like Royal Rumble brings that energy where you're like, oh shit, there's gonna be that fun match, like some surprises are gonna be in it, the stakes are so high. The only thing that can compete with Royal Rumble, in my opinion, is that Money in the Bank. Like, you do have the Elimination Chamber, which would be kind of brutal, but that's not a little different for me. That doesn't really bring that excitement. But Money in the Bank always is like, oh shit, like they're climbing ladders, people flying around, like high action match. So I have yet to attend one, but I can see why you definitely be hyped out of your mind for this to be the pay-per-view in Toronto.
What I really enjoy too is just like, I'm just like used to Canadian weather because I've grown up in Canada my whole life. That like, if WWE were to come for a Mania, it'd be similar to the Mania in Philly because it'd be kind of cold. Like, you would go for the experience, but like your overall like coziness would be very cold. Yep. So WWE always capitalizes on like summer events. They came here in 2016 for Survivor Series, and one of my good friends, Brandon, and my other good friends, Cody and Noah, went, and they just said, amazing show. It's shitty that Canada sucks in November for weather. Yeah. So with Money in the Bank, like it's literally prime weekend, first weekend in July. If it's plus 40, which I don't care, it's going to be plus 40. I have wrestling to look forward to on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Raw is in Ottawa on the Monday, which I have not convinced the girlfriend to go to yet, but that's a last-minute decision in Toronto.
There's always a chance. There's always a chance.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Always a chance. Now, I do want to dive into the actual match card for Money in the Bank, but before I do, there's just one last question, because I'm curious. I'm all American-born and whatnot. I had the honor to visit Toronto earlier this year for a work trip for the NHL playoffs. But aside from that, I don't know too much about Canada, Toronto, Ontario, all that. How do you feel culture-wise in the wrestling community? Like, is there a good turnout for all these wrestling events? Like, do you find yourself easy to find people that are also into WWE, AEW, wrestling in general? Or, like, is it a rare breed out there? Do you kind of feel like you're on your own in an island of, relevancy as a wrestling fan in Canada?
Well, like, I would say prior to me going for the first time, which was SummerSlam 2019. No, that's a lie. I went to Raw and SmackDown in 2017. Mm-hmm. I would say, like, going to Toronto itself for wrestling, you really decide, like, wow, like, there's more than 5 wrestling fans in Ontario. Yeah. It's an actual, like, cult following. But then you always, Vince era-ish and prior, when they name, like, good cities, Toronto always cracks the top 10. With international crowds now, I'm kind of scared that Toronto won't crack the top 10 because, like, France was unreal for Backlash. But when I went to SummerSlam in 2019, it was so cool because, Wrestling Gifts, the YouTuber, he's on Twitter as well. I met him, and we kind of like bonded right in front of where Money in the Bank is gonna be. And my buddy Cody was beside me. He's like, did you just like really walk up to him like you guys were buddies? And I was like, dude, we're wrestling fans. Like, we're all gonna be buddies. You walk up to whoever you are. Doesn't matter if he's just like an average Joe off the streets or he's an internet celebrity.
Yep.
Like, we all bond over wrestling. But where I live in my hometown, growing up, wrestling was like definitely like how do you watch that fake shit? It's predetermined. And I was just like, but it's always the generic, movies are fake. But like, man, I would go to bat. I was just like, they fall off 15-foot cages and like there's chairs and like they're hurt. Edge had a triple fusion neck surgery, and someone was like, "You can't have a triple fusion."
5 times in my knee.
Those used to be memorized, man. And so when I went to Raw in 2022, Johnny Gargano came back, and to that day, I've never heard something so loud in my life. The eruption for you didn't know Gargano was gonna be there, and then you leave the Scotiabank Arena, and everybody's like blaring Johnny Gargano's theme outside. Unmatched feeling. Like, I would definitely say, like, you have your pockets, like Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa, honestly, is really good for wrestling fans. But locally, I don't know, because we don't really have, like, WWE comes to town, AEW comes to town. But I would definitely say, like, Canada is definitely a hot spot for wrestling.
Oh yeah, man. Now that you mention it, I feel like watching when I was, 24/7 Raw, SmackDown, like any kind of wrestling content I could consume. I do remember, we're in Toronto tonight, and that crowd was always hot. Like, you guys do show out, at least from the outskirts. I'm like, oh shit, they're in Toronto, But generally, yeah, I feel like, us Americans were so ignorant to what happens outside, like our walls, we're like, oh, where are they? Like, I don't even know where that is. But I'm glad that Canada is getting its love, and you guys have been getting the big shows, like you said, SummerSlam recently, Survivor Series, now Money in the Bank. Maybe they do bring a Mania up to you guys eventually. But
that'd be crazy.
I also have been vouching and praying. I'm like, come on, bring it to Boston. Bring Mania to Boston. But it's like, Toronto and Boston, they're the same deal. Like, in that Mania time, it's just freezing up here. So, like, unless you want to do a Mania indoors at a smaller arena, it's like you kind of are risking it with, all right, maybe there's a blizzard during Mania. Like, it's hard to approach.
Growing up, I remember one of the first DVDs I had was Mania 22 in Chicago, but they made that arena look so big because, like, the stage was the perfect size, and at the time, wrestling was probably pulling in, like, multi-million amount of viewers on, like, a Raw and SmackDown. So to put everybody in the Allstate Arena, and then to go to Ford Field or Ford Stadium the next year in Detroit, you just see the crowd grow twice as much. So imagine if Toronto were to pack everybody in the Scotiabank Arena for a Mania, you'd be having people sit outside because you'd have to expand the arena somehow. Yeah. You could do the Sky Dome like Mania 18, but if you're looking for like a cozy Mania's going to be pulled off in Toronto, it's either they move it to May or they put it in the Sky Dome with the roof closed.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get creative for sure. What about, like, do you think would the Rogers Center make sense, like where the Blue Jays play, or like, nah, that shit too small? I haven't been inside.
Well, they did it for Rock versus Hogan at
Mania. Really? I didn't know that.
I think that's Mania 18. Emerson Corleone, he has a clothing business on the side, and he sold me a jersey they were selling at the event with like the WWF scratch logo on it. And I was like, I'm a wrestling fan, but like I don't know this card so well. But it sounds such like a fake fan if it's not, but I'm pretty confident it was The Rock versus Hogan. And they just made the Sky Dome look incredible for a Mania. It was very similar to how SummerSlam stage was, with like a kind of like a football field approach, just translated to baseball. And at the time, it was probably pulled off perfectly because you had less hardcore wrestling fans. Yeah. But nowadays, 2024, wrestling is the hottest it's ever been. No catchphrase stealing from The Rock, but like. Yeah. To put everybody in one arena, it would have to be the Rogers Center. Like, it would most definitely have to be.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, maybe I'm just getting creative, but I would love to see like one match if you're at the Rogers Center, like get over into CN Tower and like you're fighting up on like the observation deck or something. That would be sick. That would
cinematic
be sick.
match.
Cinematic match. You end up not even on like the observation deck, but like the 30 feet higher, the 30 floors higher. We're on like the smaller observation deck above it. That's where the match has to end. Like, that would be fire.
That would be awesome. Yep. I agree.
And then you can look down, literally right into the Rogers Center, and like there's the crowd, there's the ring, like cinema.
Looking like ants.
Drake is just sitting on the outside, like, you know, it writes itself, bro.
That's incredible.
Hey, they're gonna hire me for the creative team. I'm here all day. You know? All right, diving into things. This is a disclaimer. We're actually recording as SmackDown's on the air. So we might be picking some predictions and our picks might have already lost on SmackDown or someone else slid their way into a Money in the Bank match or etc. But just to acknowledge it, which is very fitting as there's an acknowledgement ceremony tonight on SmackDown for the Bloodline. They're at Madison Square Garden in New York, so they're actually not too far from both of us, being Toronto and Boston natives. We have a Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony, then we have 3 Money in the Bank qualifying matches. One being Logan Paul, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, Jade Cargill, Candice LeRae, Tiffany Stratton, and then Blair Davenport, Naomi, India Hartwell. So we're going to know 2 more women that will crack their way into the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And then one of the trio from Knight, Paul, Santos is getting into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Did just want to acknowledge those. We don't have to pick winners because we're actually going to start picking winners for the actual main card at Money in the Bank, where I wanted to start with a match that I'm excited for. And it is your mid-card title, the Intercontinental Championship, Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. How are you feeling leading into this match? Predictions, who you think is going to win? I'm excited to see Braun Breaker finally get his first match on a big main roster WWE PLE.
No, I agree entirely with that. I think what was really lacking over the past few years was kind of like that Braun Strowman-esque approach to like squash match after squash match. So to see Braun Breaker be doing that since his main roster call-up in April or May, I really think him fighting Sami is like that ultimate underdog, of course, fighting like this match you're expecting to go like 30 seconds to a minute. But if Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker can pull off the Gunther and Sami Zayn match from Mania, just kind of like in their own styles, I think besides, of course, like the men's Money in the Bank match, the women's Money in the Bank match, that might be like the actual match of the night. Now, saying as like a really like deep dive wrestling fan and you kind of like fantasy book, I would understand if Braun Breaker won the title at Money in the Bank. But if Sami Zayn won it, I think I would be a little bit more happier just because we're going in with the approach like Braun Breaker murdered Ricochet, Ilya Dragunov, speared Sheamus, and all of that's going down. But if Sami Zayn were to like pull it off, they kind of have like a blow off match at SummerSlam. I think that's like when you let Braun Breaker do more damage to Sami instead of saying, "Hey Sami, give me a title match because I'm next in line." Yeah. So I'm team Sami for that one, but wouldn't be surprised if Braun Breaker won his first title at Money in the Bank.
For sure. I mean, that guy gets pushed heavy, and understandably so. He's just a freak of nature, probably the closest thing they've had to a Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, as you mentioned, even throwing Braun Strowman's name out there. He is just literal genetic freak. Like, this is the guy that is gonna, you know, they had to split him and Carmelo Hayes up because it's like those are the two guys in NXT like that represent NXT 2.0, with Carmelo going over to SmackDown, Braun getting the pull over to Raw. And yeah, I think it's been refreshing. Usually I feel like most people complain about, oh my god, it's another squash match. I know Jade Cargill was getting like hate for that for the longest time. Like, when's Jay gonna fight a real opponent? But I don't know, it has felt refreshing for Braun Breaker.
Yeah, it has.
Like, they're doing it the
even
right
for
way.
Jade Cargill.
And I think it's going to be, you know, it's a fresh match. We've gotten a lot of Chad Gable, Sami Zayn. So it's nice to have Sami on a PLE where it's not Chad Gable. Not saying that they don't put on bangers, but at least it's just something new on the card. And that's actually where I feel like there's one more question that stems from this storyline is, A, does Chad get involved at Money in the Bank? And B, do you think if someone is to take the title off Sami Zayn, will it be Braun, or are they still saving it for like a Chad Gable SummerSlam moment, or Chad Gable in general? Do you think Chad will eventually be the one to take it? Or I'm just interested to see how that all works. Like if it's Braun that wins at Money in the Bank, where does Chad Gable kind of go from here?
I think that if Chad Gable were to have won the Intercontinental Championship, it would have happened by now. I think that the blow off would have been, what was their most recent match? That was at what was the most recent pay-per-view?
Not King and Queen of the Ring, Clash at the Castle.
I think if Clash at the Castle would have been like his blow off moment, that would have made kind of like the most sense. But at the same time, you're kind of boiling like that full-fledged like Alpha Academy no, the Creed brothers yes kind of ordeal. If Chad Gable were to get involved again, it would have to be because the Creed brothers helped Chad Gable get back into that picture. Mm-hmm. If there was somebody to take the title off Sami Zayn on the Raw roster, I can't really put my finger on who it would be unless it was kind of like a Sheamus heel turn. But like there's nothing I love more than Sheamus as a good guy. Like I think he just connects with the crowd when he's a good guy, because to like the average Joe who flicks through the channel seeing this ginger white pasty skin guy just beat the living shit out of somebody, you want to root for him. And then the wrestling fan tells you he's a bad guy. No. Yeah. But if there were to take, if there was someone to take the title off him, I would say it would be Sheamus or Braun Breaker.
All right, yeah, I can respect that. Sheamus always has to be in the fold. I mean, that's just a legend in the industry, you know? And he has had his world title reigns and whatnot, but I feel like the equivalent, I don't know if this is the best comparison, but I know in AEW, everyone's like, Bryan Danielson, stop. Just win the title. Like, please. Yeah, they are begging this man to win the title. I feel like it's the same for Sheamus. It's like, Sheamus, you're a legend, bro. Win a title. You deserve it, man, you know?
Yes,
so, that's not a bad pick at all. Sheamus definitely is always in the fold. You can throw his name in for any title. The tag titles, the Intercontinental, the United States, World Heavyweight Championship, WWE title. I'd always be like, yeah, it's Sheamus. Sure, why not?
I'm having a little bit of recency bias on this because WWE just put out like a WWE timeline, and Sheamus reflected on like his career. So like that video is like fresh in my mind, but it was like the last like 16 years of his career, and I was like, fuck, you've really made everything work, even when he was feuding with Roman after cashing in on him in Survivor Series 2015. So like he is of course a legend, but it's just made my love for this guy a lot stronger. So to see Sheamus with the Intercontinental Championship, not only would it secure his Grand Slam, I would just be happy with that being like the next champion, or one he does before the sun sets on his career.
Hell yeah. Dude, that man survived the League of Nations. If he can survive the League of Nations...
let's talk about it.
If he can survive that gimmick, he can survive anything, okay? That man is a cockroach in WWE.
Oh, yes, sir.
God. But yeah, personally, I'm very excited for Zayn and Breaker. It's a fresh new match. We'll see if they give Breaker the huge win on his first pay-per-view. But as I have said in podcast after podcast, might be a Sheamus reference, banger after banger. But I feel like Sami Zayn is just, Mr. PLE recently. Like, he's always so overlooked. People just do not care for his reign. Then he just shows up on the PLE and puts in an absolute banger, and you just believe in that man. He can storytell just through one match, through one night. That's what he did at Mania 40. I feel like so many people were overlooking Sami and Gunther. And literally halfway through the match, like, oh my God, Sami Zayn is the guy to dethrone Gunther. Like, he just won you over in that one match. That's how he works his magic.
Especially, like, with those average, like, Joes who don't, like, tune into, like, the week-to-week. Like, for example, Night Sky prior to Mania. I'm sure if Night Sky was like scrolling on his phone, but he looks up, he sees Sami Zayn in a match, his phone would go down because Sami Zayn makes you believe in the fight he's in. Yep. I think it's so incredible. We go from, I think it was beginning of 2021 where they did that Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin match, and they're like, the match you were not looking forward to and you wish this wasn't happening, and they dedicated like a 4-minute like promo on it. Transition into the Bloodline storyline. Coming out of it, you're hot as ever, and like the momentum continues to go instead of it being stale. because Sami Zayn, as you mentioned, is that character right now. He's Mr. PLE, and I feel like if he just had like a little bit longer with the championship, because I'm all for long title reigns, a blow off at SummerSlam I would be completely content with.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the lead up for Sammy. Personally, I think Sammy's winning at Money in the Bank. I just feel like, Braun will be. I don't know how you have Braun lose, but
Yeah.
I just feel like he would be okay. Like, you're not gonna ever. You can bury Braun Breaker. Don't get me wrong. You can bury anybody on this roster. Like, anyone's capable of being buried. But I just don't think a loss on his first PLE is gonna be what it takes to bury Braun Breaker. He's just too much of a generational talent. He's too much of the future, where, like, he doesn't necessarily need that win right now. I'm still stuck on this whole Chad Gable thing. I'm like, if anyone's gonna beat Sammy, I want it to be Chad. I think Chad is doing masterful work, putting on cinema storytelling. So I'm still holding on to that hope, even if, as you said, the time may have passed. But I guess we'll see. That's definitely going to be a fun one-on-one match, a refreshing one-on-one match, and definitely easy dark horse to be match of the night.
Of course.
Because other than, the Money in the Bank ladder matches themselves, we don't have too much diversity. We have a 6-man tag, which we're about to jump into, and then we'll have the only world title match later in the episode. But this 6-man tag is actually the one that I had predicted on the Clash of the Castle episode, because they pretty much gave it away right as Cody wins, Solo comes out, and the 6 of them brawl. But it's going to be Cody Rhodes, KO, and Randy Orton versus the Bloodline. I'm interested to see which 3 members of the Bloodline actually get in the match. Is it gonna be all 4 of them? Is it gonna be Tanga Loa sitting on the sidelines? Is it gonna be Jacob Fatu sitting on the sidelines? I'm interested in that. But how do you see this match going? Winner? How are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about Cody being in a 6-man tag on a PLE? How are you feeling about that whole situation?
So, first, I just want to say with Jacob Fatu, I've only ever known of him through Instagram, the occasional YouTube video, Twitter especially. But the way they brought Jacob in was fucking perfect, man. I have such a spot for when you bring this powerhouse in and he clears the whole opposing side in one night in 20 minutes. I would love for Jacob to be a part of the Bloodline team that night. There's just that little part in me, and it's kind of like the Jeff Hardy-esque thing where with I guess his past, he may not be allowed to wrestle in Canada. So I actually don't even know, because he's on the graphic, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he's actually allowed to wrestle in Toronto. Of course, it could just be a rumor on Fightful Select and everything. But if he is in Toronto and he is in the ring, I hope he's fighting and not doing the manager-esque side of the 3v3. I agree with you entirely, though. When you saw Solo walk out beside Cody after the match with AJ Styles, I was like, I can appreciate we're not getting a WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank, but I can definitely see this being a 3-on-3, blow the house down, fight all over the arena, warfare, sort of like Anarchy in the Arena, but WWE's version in the Toronto crowd. I'm very conflicted, though, because to me, Solo, although he's been having this nice leader of Bloodline 2.0 approach, and he calls the shots, he's feeding Paul Heyman Roman Reigns won't come back, I just don't see him in that leader position personally. So for him to potentially main event SummerSlam against Cody Rhodes, I don't know if that is a big SummerSlam ticket seller. I can definitely see the angle where maybe we see a Roman come back, maybe we see Roman come back to set up for Survivor Series. But if the 3-on-3 were to end, I don't think there's any drama to end the match. There's no surprising heel turn. I think it's just going to be a good 3-on-3. The good guys win, and then Cody and Solo go to SummerSlam.
Solid. I definitely think, very logical path. But for me, I actually think Bloodline is winning. And here's why. I think we're planting the seeds for Cody and Randy. So I think something is going to happen. Disarray. I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger this soon, where Randy and Cody are going to get into a beef during the match. I don't know. It's so fresh. This is their first time teaming together, probably since the Legacy days. I might be wrong. You're going to have to fact check me. But it definitely feels it's he was there. Randy was there for Cody's start of the career, and then they kind of both went off, did their own thing, and like all these years later, hey, we're now teaming on a major PLE in WWE again. Of course, it's star power. It's Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Cody. But for me, I just feel like, you know, the bloodline where it was the Usos and Roman, aura, the definition of aura.
Yes, sir.
This new bloodline, the complete opposite. No aura.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Jacob Fatu getting added definitely adds aura because of how he was introduced, as you said. To wipe out your WWE champion, Randy Orton, a legend, and Kevin Owens, who has always been on top in the upper card, that's big. That's a big honor. Big. To be able to knock them all out. That's like, oh shit, this guy's going to be legit. But I just feel like the bloodline needs a big win on a PLE. It's their first time fighting as a team together on a PLE. And, you know, obviously where Cody, Kevin, and Randy aren't a faction, aren't a team, I think they can definitely afford a PLE loss and use it as fuel to kind of tease Cody and Randy. Whether that happens at SummerSlam or Mania 41, obviously the big rumor right now, as you said, is Cody and Solo. I also don't see Solo as that guy. I want to because he has a banger theme. He's got the look. But just something is missing there, and I can never put my finger on it. It's like he just is auraless, bro. Like, I don't know how to say it. He came in strong, but then I think it was that losing streak. He went like 0-46 or whatever it was, like because of the live events, and like it just really tarnished his image. And it's hard for him now, even as the new tribal chief, new head of the table. It's almost like you just want to laugh at it. It's like, no, you ain't, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
It's like, especially after that win against Cena last November at Crown Jewel.
Yep.
Like, if there was a, like, I don't know how far, of course, they book in advance, or like if they knew this was the angle, I guess the road they were gonna take, rather. Sorry. But like, if Solo was gonna lose match after beating John Cena, who is trademarked the greatest of all time, everybody's indifferent to that. I personally enjoy Cena, but like, he just automatically, you have to believe in him being your top SmackDown guy with Roman's absence, that if he's going to main event against Cody, something big is going to have to happen on a SmackDown where everybody's tweeting like, oh shit, now I'm sold, instead of saying, okay, can't wait for Seth's defense against Gunther. Like, yeah. I really don't see Cody and Solo actually like main eventing, and people are like, hey, that was like Solo's best bout to date.
Yeah, 100%. He still just needs that performance, you know? Like, Cody, I feel like people really got behind when he had the torn pec Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins. Cena has had countless matches where you can point and say, that's when Cena became a legend. Like, when you look at the highlight packages, it's always like, when he's lifting up Big Show with the FE.
Yeah.
Like, he always has, like, a moment that you're like, you just became a star. Very recently, I feel like AEW just had that with Swerve. Like, his matches with Hangman, you were like, oh my god, this man just transcended. He's a star. Solo has not had anything close to that.
No.
He has yet to have a match or a highlight or a moment where you can just be like, I'm sold. It's just very much coming in. Like, he's always just been convoluted. It's like on NXT, people were like, this is the cool Solo Sikoa. He had I think it was the North American title run. He was talking all the time. Comes to the main roster, he's the enforcer, doesn't talk, has no character to him. And now he's like kind of back to being like a hybrid of the enforcer and his old roots in NXT. And it's just like, it's cloudy, it's not clicking, it's kind of feeling forced. But they have to do it because we're waiting for Rock and Roman to come back inevitably. Like,
yeah,
it just very much feels like a bridge, and it's just, I don't know, like something is just so off about it, and I never know how to lay a finger on it, you know?
I think that, honestly, now that you say it like that, I think that perfectly sums up the wrestlers that you and I have grown up with since like the mid 2000s to now, because I'm sure, and like I'm sure my parents, they grew up wrestling fans too, that's how they probably felt about everybody from like our growing up, from 2005 to like 2012, 13. Like, when my mom, I remember, saw Mr. Kennedy carrying the Money in the Bank briefcase, she was like, that walking like skin and bones dude is carrying the Money in the Bank briefcase. He's no Ultimate Warrior, he's no Hulk Hogan. So now we look at Solo and we're like, you're no Roman, because like we're always comparing to the generation we grew up, if they were believable then.
Yep.
You hit it on the head. Swerve, man, like that took me forever to actually enjoy Swerve, because the tag team with Keith Lee was so cool and I enjoyed it, but I watched it for Keith Lee. So, of course, like many Swerve fans, it was probably like the trio with Hangman or however many matches they had. And you're like, this is cool. Like the Who's House, Swerve's House ordeal, that was awesome. Because he had his match. Quickly change the subject about Cena, when you're like, you can pinpoint a match, that's what became a legend. I vividly remember, I think it was his May 26th Raw comeback. They gave you like the highlight, like Cena will be on this Raw. And there was this promo they played, and it was like these trumpets that were very sad of Cena's career. And I was like, don't let this be the time. Don't let this be it. Don't let this be it. Because Cena's been that guy. Roman's been that guy. And I hope looking back on this podcast in 3 years that we saw Solo become this guy. We just didn't believe in him yet.
Yep, 100%. Like, that's the hardest thing is, like, I'm not trying to hate. I want to see him do good. Like I said, he's got the theme. He's got the look. He always, it feels very Seth Rollins-esque in The Shield when he had, like, the little blonde streak of hair. Like, okay, Solo has blonde hair, but it does make him look cool. Like, it works for him. Like I said, he's got the look. He's got everything going. He just hasn't had that moment yet, and he's still young. You gotta remember, he's fresh off NXT from what, 2-3-ish years ago, because he had I might be wrong, but how did he debut on the main roster at WrestleMania 39 when he gave Cody the spike? I don't know if that was his main roster debut, but I feel like it was somewhere around that time. Like, that wasn't that long ago, so
he screwed Drew the first time.
That's right.
At the first Clash at the Castle.
Yep.
And I remember, because like I had to work that day, so I turned my phone off, ran over to my brother's house, and I was like, "Oh my God, Drew is winning tonight!" And that one Claymore, and then you see him hit the 3, and I'm like, "Brandon, Roman's done!" And my brother's like, "Look at the TV, someone just pulled him out. It's Solo." Yeah. And I was like, "Fuck, no, not Solo."
That's right. It was Clash of the Castle 2022. But that's what I mean. Like, that was only a little over 2 years ago. So he's only been on the main roster for a little over 2 years. He's still just as new as, say, Gunther. I'm trying to think of other names that came around that time. But you know the point. It's like, he's still new. We got to give him some time. But definitely, he needs his defining moment. Maybe it'll happen at Money in the Bank at the 6-man tag. Maybe he'll do something crazy. Who knows? But I think that's what he's lacking, is he just has yet to have a feud or a match where it's like, all right, now you just had that legend-making performance, I believe, in Solo Sikoa.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see. I mean, I like that we had different predictions. I feel like Sky and I always are like, and I agree. But that was the first time it was like, I could actually be like, you know what? I actually don't agree. I think the Bloodline's going to win it. So that'll be a very interesting match. And I'm curious to see if other hardcore wrestling fans are also toying. They're like, nah, dude, good guys are taking that. Like, fuck the new Bloodline. Or if there's people like, on my side where they're like, nah, Bloodline needs a big win. Like, that'll be an interesting match to see which way it goes and how it plays out. But I would love the anarchy like in the arena approach, as you said.
Yeah, man, and I'll definitely be hitting you up on Discord in the arena and going like, holy fuck, that just happened.
Yes, sir. After Solo Sikoa lifts up all 3 men, spins them around, and has his legend-making moment, I'm like, oh shit, he's a star! He's a star.
He listened to this!
Oh shit. Well, we've gone through 2. There's 3 matches to go, and obviously, if you're watching Money in the Bank, you're watching for Money in the Bank. So, I think we're going to bounce on over to the World Heavyweight Championship match. Priest, Rollins. Rollins came back just a week or 2 ago from his hiatus. We hadn't seen him since he literally was the workhorse of WrestleMania 40. He's back. Damian Priest just hands him the title shot. He's like, hey, fuck entering the Money in the Bank ladder match. You're fighting me. And here we are. Like, this is going to be your big title card match on Money in the Bank. What are you thinking? I see a lot of people are finally giving Damian Priest his flowers. They're fucking with his title reign. How are you feeling for this match?
So, this is going to be a really long road to my answer, but I've always had this in my head since Mania. So, Seth, Damian cashed in very similar ways. The only difference is Seth's was in the middle of a match. Damian's was post-match after a CM Punk kind of sweep on the announcer table to Drew. But to me, and maybe I'm the only one, they've had a very similar first world title reign where you enjoy the performer. He's just not been sold to me as a champion, because like Seth went from fighting Randy Orton at Extreme Rules 2015, and then he had a fatal 4-way against Dean Ambrose, Randy Orton, and Kane. I think it was at Battleground or Payback. No, it was at Payback. And then you had a really good ladder match against Dean Ambrose at Money in the Bank. But his first, like, wow, that was a great, like, world title match was his match against Lesnar at Battleground. But the only thing is that match was so good, and The Undertaker came out at the end, set up Undertaker Brock at SummerSlam 2015 in New York. So when you go about 9 years later, now Damian Priest is kind of like, he had a good match with Jey Uso. Like, it was okay for me personally. He had a good match with, I'm drawing a blank. That's terrible. Who did he just recently fight? Oh, Drew.
Yeah.
His match with Drew was so good that I'm glad he won. But he has yet to have that, like, Rollins-Brock match. But I'm hoping Rollins can be the Brock in that match and kind of go like, you just made Damian Priest live up to Seth's world title reign-esque. If Rollins were to lose, your two main title matches, let's just take the Money in the Bank cash out of the equation for a second. If Rollins were to lose, your SummerSlam main event would be Gunther and Priest and Solo and Cody. Mm-hmm. And to a wrestling fan, like, you're going to tune in no matter what. But to, like, hardcore wrestling fans like you and I, we look at it from every angle, and we're like, does this put asses in seats? Is this going to be good? Gunther and Priest, I would put over a Cody and Solo match personally.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I would enjoy to see Priest win the match, but it wouldn't surprise me if Seth does a 2-time world title reign and then goes and faces Gunther.
Yeah, I do see this one going either way. As I did the Drew McIntyre match, I was like, Drew could win. He's at home and doing great things. But at the end of the day, Judgment Day and the Liv Morgan whole story with, Rhea Ripley and whatnot, that shit is running raw. Like,
yes, sir.
That thing is building. And a lot of people, myself included, were speculating that Finn Balor would be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, wins it, cashes in on Priest either later in the night, or that's kind of, the successor to Priest's title reign being Finn Balor. Don't know if that's happening anymore now that Balor is the tag champ and lost to Jey Uso in the qualifying match. We'll see if there's any kind of second chance qualifying match or whatever. But I want to say, for me, I envision Priest winning. I feel like Rollins coming back. It's just, I always get this gut feeling, and I'm not always right, but I feel like, oh shit, like, yeah, like, this is the feud, this is the match, title's changing hands. I feel like is pretty universal. Like, even Cody at Mania 40, or you name it. I'm trying to think of other ones. Like, you can usually tell when it's someone's time. Again, to go back to Swerve and AEW, like, everyone was like, okay, if Swerve's like second chance of the title, well, finally one-on-one, he's winning it. Like, you usually have that gut feeling. I don't have that for Rollins at Money in the Bank. I just feel like Rollins, like, back, so there's more star power on Raw. He doesn't necessarily need the title, but it should be addressed that, like, hey, I lost the title, where's my rematch clause? So that's what this kind of feels like to me. I feel like it's more of like, let's give Priest another great title reign, title defense against a top star and continue his reign. I think if Priest is to lose the title, it won't be until SummerSlam. But I agree. I do think it complicates things, because then, as it's slating to be, it is Cody and Solo and Gunther and Priest at one of the major four, if not the second most important show of WWE's year, SummerSlam. And that is not cooking. That is wrestling wise, at least. Those are not 5-star matches, like, those are clashing styles. We've already gotten Cody and Solo on literal smackdowns. So, like, for it to be a SummerSlam match just feels crazy. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they're going different directions, but that does seem what they're brewing towards. But for this match, I mean, I think Priest and Rollins will put on a banger. Priest has been, at least for me, he's been winning me over. I feel like his matches have been really starting to pick up. The Drew match was good. Priest literally almost destroyed his leg mid-match and finished the match. That really, I was like, oh shit, here's his Cody torn pecs, like, story. Like, here we go. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. and I could see it going either way. But personally, if I was booking, I'm giving it to Priest because I don't know. I'm still on the whole like it has to be Finn Balor. He's working with Liv. Liv just basically handed Finn Balor the tag team titles. Like, I feel like the large payoff is Finn and Liv kind of going off either as faces or as the heels, and then Rhea Ripley comes back again as either the face or the heel. I don't know which side is going to be which, but she will kind of have her feud with Liv Morgan. Priest and Balor will feud. Like, I see that is how the Judgment Day is going to dismantle, as they were like the group other than the Bloodline for the longest time. But I don't know. I mean, Triple H, you never know. Sometimes you're like, this is what it's going to be. And then other times you have Finn Balor eat the pin to main event Jey Uso. And now you're like, they don't give a fuck about Finn Balor.
That sums it up, man. That's perfect.
Crazy. But we do have the actual Money in the Bank ladder matches. I feel like there's not much to say, which is good because we are actually running a little heavy on the podcast. So we'll definitely throw out a prediction and a quick little discussion about them. But we have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match and the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. As we're speaking, we're already an hour into SmackDown, so 1 or 2 people have already qualified. But at the time of recording, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match is Io, Chelsea Green, and Lyra Valkyria, with 3 to be determined. The men's is Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, and 2 to be determined. You can start on whichever one you want. You can talk about both. You can only focus on one if you want. But how are you feeling about these, and who would be your personal winner to win both of these matches?
So, like, as the trends over a year go for me, I find myself really remembering the women's equivalent to whatever the pay-per-view is, like Women's Royal Rumble, Women's Money in the Bank. I think going in, I'm going to be more excited for the Women's Money in the Bank because, like, as you mentioned, like, the time of recording, we don't know 2 of the new qualifiers. But, like, with Lyra, Chelsea, and Io, I'd be okay with any of them holding the briefcase. If, say, Tiffany Stratton were to get in, and then you have, I guess, Naomi, Blair, and Indy, I would be okay if Naomi won it as well. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's one of those matches where any 6 can win. Maybe if I'm in the arena, have a few beers, my decision's going to be different, or like Chelsea should have won in Canada. But I'm okay with any of them. But what I really want out of the women's Money in the Bank is just like that standing crowd ovation. Like, they just truly put on the better Money in the Bank that night with the people they have.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
How about you?
For me, I made my picks and the Clash of the Castle podcast, and I'm sticking with them. I feel like the 2 strong picks are Chelsea Green, as she has the hometown crowd. She, well, I don't know if she's from Toronto specifically, I forget, but I know she is Canadian. So she'll have the Canadian side crowd on her side. And I just feel like her type of character is so good for Money in the Bank briefcase run. Like, just the sneaky, the comedy, you name it. But my other pick would be Tiffany Stratton. However, she's in a qualifying match against Jade Cargill. So, like, I don't know. I don't know if she's going to make it. I don't know if she's already cracked it or lost. But I feel like, Tiffy time could definitely be at Money in the Bank. Wrestling wise, I think Tiffy is the pick to go because she's the future. She could definitely, heels are so good with the Money in the Bank briefcase, so she could have a great run with a Money in the Bank briefcase. And then, like I said, Chelsea is just written in the stars for her. Like, it makes complete sense as to why she would win in Canada and then go on a probably like a year-long run up until Mania. Like, she probably have the Priest type tenure with the briefcase where she goes all the way up to Mania with it. Those would be my picks, and I agree. I do feel like in recent years it's definitely been the women completely outshining the men. The Rumbles have been better. The Rumbles have 20 times more surprises than the men's do. Like, the men's, they're like, let's throw in like the fucking Creed brothers. Like, there's your surprise. Like, it's just like random ass people where like, why? Like, yo, throw in like the Honky Tonk Man. I don't know. Like, give us like a legend. Like, like, growing up, I used to love the Rumbles because you're getting the surprises, and the women still pull that off. You're always getting the Trish. You're getting, just recently it was Jordan Grace from TNA. Like, you're always getting the surprises, and they are jam packing these women's Rumble matches. The Money in the Bank is memorable. Obviously, Liv Morgan kind of had her ascension to the upper card when she won Money in the Bank. That's just also memorable, and these women are just putting on bangers. And for the men, it's like, I don't know, like, it's kind of one of those, like, maybe we're having the steak too early, and now, like, the men is like, like, I'm already full. Like, maybe it's just like the women are already stealing the show, and then you just get that crowd fatigue by the time it comes to the men. But yeah, a lot of the men matches have just been very forgettable. Like, you can just be like, all right, there it is. There's your Money in the Bank. There's your Royal Rumble. There's your Elimination Chamber. Like, the women have been outshining the men these past couple of years, hands down.
No, I you couldn't put that even like any better. I find that with, like, as you mentioned, the women's Royal Rumble surprises, although like the pool is somewhat smaller in terms of who could be like a surprise, they always just pull them off so well, and there's always a rhyme and a reason.
Yep.
I don't want to forget this point, so I'm gonna say it quickly. I really enjoy. I don't know if it's necessarily Triple H doing it, or I've been kind of just doing a lot of like, this has happened recently, so I've only noticed it recently. I love when you root for somebody's character over a year, no matter how much they lose, just for them to be rewarded. Like Bayley at Mania, for example. Like, that was the perfect moment for Bayley to win the title, because everything leading up to Bayley winning the title was her making sure Io, Dakota, and Carrie all shined. So Chelsea has made everybody shine that she's in the ring with. She makes Raquel look like a threat. She made Piper look like the biggest deal in the world against Bayley. Yep. So for Chelsea to win, not only is it written in the stars, it would be one of those like, wow, like everything she did paid off, and the crowd knows why. And just quickly mentioning like men's Royal Rumble surprises to women's Royal Rumble surprises, we had Jeff Jarrett in 2019 in the men's Royal Rumble. And it wasn't even like Jeff Jarrett. It was Jeff Jarrett, WWF, when they were based about characters. Like, the Elias Jeff thing was definitely written. Like, you could see that. But, like, to say that was one of the biggest surprises of that match, like, come on.
Trash.
Come on. Trash. Trash, man.
Beyond trash. Yeah, I mean, just the way you just put it there, that's a great point with the whole, like, payoff. WWE has been doing a damn good thing with those payoffs. I feel like AEW has done it for like the elite stories, but AEW is very quick to pull the trigger. Like, the Acclaim got hot,
so quick.
Strap them up. WWE will torture you. That's why I feel like we're getting with Chad Gable right now. I'm trying to think of other good examples. For the longest time, I mean, you could even argue Sami Zayn is still getting tortured by not winning the big one. Like, it's been decades, and we're still not getting a Sami Zayn world title reign. I feel like if he ever wins it, it's going to be a Kofi Mania situation. He'll win it, lose in such horrible fashion, like a Brock Lesnar situation, and that's it. He's never getting the title ever again. Like, that's going to be the only way Sami Zayn wins a title, is like a one-off. But it does pay off. Like, having Cody lose at 39, go through a year of literally the John Cena redemption arc, where you have, you know, the torn pec initially, you have the Brock Lesnar feud, you have this, you have that, The Rock coming in, stealing your spotlight, finally winning at WrestleMania 40. WrestleMania 40 would not have felt as sweet if he hadn't lost at WrestleMania 39. These payoffs are 100% worth it. And I think if there's one person for this Money in the Bank that has like the best payoff, it's Chelsea Green. Like,
it's Chelsea Green, man.
She has yet to have, I mean, she had like what, a tag team title reign, but aside from that, she has yet to have like a crowning moment. Whether it's a Queen of the Ring, whether it's a title, singles title, you name it, she's never had that shit. She's always been one of the side characters, comedic relief, etc. And I think she's so over. She's been doing cinema work, and yeah, like, this would definitely be the time after suffering, she finally pulls it off. And with that being said, there is still the men's Money in the Bank, which, I mean, it's not that I'm not excited for, but it's just I'm invested in this women's Money in the Bank match, man. Like, you're right. Like, the women have been shining. Again, my pick still is going to be Finn Balor. I'm delusional. Somehow he's getting into this match, I swear. But if he does not enter this match, if he does not win, I feel like it's just clear cut. Main event Jey Uso was winning this thing. He's on the poster. He's so over pushed right now. He's literally the guy. I don't see them giving it to like a Chad Gable who's kind of still in the Intercontinental title mix. You have random guys like Andrade. Why would you give it to Andrade? You know, like he needs to do more in WWE before he gets it. Nobody else in this match that is at least qualified really is selling me as like, oh yeah, he's gonna win. Even if LA Knight or Logan Paul get it, that shit don't matter. They're just gonna keep feuding with each other. Like, it's gonna be Jey Uso if it's not Finn Balor, and I feel like I would die on that hill that like I don't see any other options that make sense. But I don't know how you feel.
No, that's my like standpoint, my view on the men's Money in the Bank. What I'm about to say may be completely redundant because I haven't checked Twitter in a few days, so I don't know if they've announced like the last 2 qualifying matches for the Money in the Bank for both like the women's and the men's. So if the men and the women had like a last chance qualifier, they're probably going to put like your Finn Balor in there, and then they're probably going to put like 2 other names that lost their qualifying matches, and then same go for the women. But there's nobody in this men's Money in the Bank match personally that I would say that I would be as passionate as I am Chelsea on the women's side.
Yep.
Because everybody here, like, if Jay won because he's on the poster, and like it would just kind of be like thrown in your face, like that's too predictable, they're not going to do that. The next day you're like, oh my god, they fucking did that.
Yep.
He was on the poster.
Yep.
So WWE wise, that's the only one that makes sense to me. Fantasy booking wise, I just don't see anybody else except like a shot in the dark of Carmelo Hayes. I don't see LA Knight. I don't see Logan Paul. I don't see Santos Escobar. I just see like someone that is so blatantly obvious. Honestly, someone as obvious as how WWE will make like their next guy be a powerhouse leading up to the like their big event. For example, the Raw before Mania, Damian Priest cleared a trios tag match in like 5 minutes. Like he just cleared house. That Sunday he cashed in. 2020 January, Drew, every single Raw was like destroying Orton, destroying Ricochet, confronting Brock, went to win the Rumble. Right now, the only person really doing that per se, and not in a wrestling way, but kind of like an in your face, I'm the answer, put your prediction on me, is Jay. And that's because he's like shoved in your face right now. Yeah. Not in a bad way, just like to kind of wake up the next day and go like, oh fuck, should have put the house on him. I'd have 2 houses.
Yep, 100%. I just feel like the writing's on the wall. And, you know, Jay is doing his thing. Like, I've critiqued him. So many people are starting to critique him and hate because when you're at the top, you're going to get hate. It don't matter who you are. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, John Cena, you're going to have haters. That's just how life is and how wrestling works. But Jay's critique is always, you know, like the limited moveset, over pushed. He's a better tag wrestler, you name it. But they're just, fuck it, bro. We Jey Uso, like, they're like, fuck it, bro.
We go.
Yeah, they're like, look at these arenas, look at his merch. Like, we don't give a fuck. Like, he is on the poster and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just with the men's Money in the Bank, like, it just feels very much like, you know, people really wanted LA Knight last year, and then it was Priest. People this year really want Finn Balor, and I feel like it's just gonna be Jey Uso. It's just feels so again, like, to you know, not to play on words, but written in the stars that it's gonna be Jay. Chelsea Green has the payoff and the story going for her. Jay just is the guy right now. And everyone else in this match is either like a mid-carder floating around, they're already involved in a storyline, like if it is a Logan Paul. And even if Drew McIntyre is to get into this match, CM Punk's just gonna get involved, push him off the ladder. Maybe you get like an AJ Lee cameo, she pushes him off the ladder, I don't know. Something would happen where Drew is not leaving with his briefcase. It just does not fit his character right now, at least in my opinion. And I feel my one friend Rivera, who was on the podcast for one of the Clash episodes, he made a great point about the Drew and Punk feud, that adding the title in almost ruins it, because it's so entirely personal that you want them to fight just out of their hatred for each other. You add the title in, they're fighting for the title. It takes away from it. This is just let them cook. They do not need the title in there. Punk is so injury prone. Last thing you want to do is the AEW thing where you strap him up and then he has to like relinquish it twice. So I think you let Drew and Punk cook on the side, brew it up until SummerSlam, like it looks like it's going, and then for Money in the Bank, it's like someone's gonna win it. Finn Balor, I personally still feel just makes like the most sense. Priest is your champion. Balor, Liv Morgan, that whole storyline is just on fire. It makes so much sense for it to be him. But if he's not in it, Jey Uso is the only main event player right now where like it makes sense. Like I don't see him getting a storyline per se with Priest or anyone that's gonna cook. So he's more of the type like he's so hyped. There's gonna be that one night like the champ's gonna be down. He's gonna hear Uso and the crowd's going crazy. It'll be the most hype Money Make Cash in ever. Like that shit's built for him. So I feel like I'm gonna lock in Chelsea Green, Jey Uso. Those are my picks. Stratton could be my dark horse. Finn Balor would be my fantasy booking pick, but I don't see anyone past them four. Like in either match, I don't see any of the logical winners, and I feel like I would die on that hill confidently.
You actually reminded me. I was like, oh, what I'm going to say is redundant. It actually is. I think on Raw, it is Drew, Sheamus, and Ilya Dragunov.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So now with that, like me remembering that, my guy I want to win is going to be Ilya. The dark horse, aka if it happens, it's right there, is Jay. But for the women's, I'm just going to do the exact same as you. Chelsea as the front runner, Tiffany as like the dark horse there. Like those are the four that if any of those ones win, I'll be leaving the ACC for Heatwave the next night. A happy man.
Hell yeah. You brought up a cool point. This might also be, you know, like how I talked about earlier, like the Randy and Cody seeds being planted very early. We also know one of the big feuds that a lot of people want to see again is Ilya Gunther. They could be crazy, and they could let Ilya win the Money in the Bank, and then somehow cash in prior to SummerSlam, and then it's Ilya Gunther at SummerSlam. there is a realistic path that could happen. Is it likely?
Yes, sir.
Probably not, but it's possible. Just throwing that out there.
I really like how receptive the crowds have been to Ilya and Lyra Valkyria, because like their first like two showings on Raw post draft were kind of really quiet, but I really like how established they became very fast, because like with Becky's absence, you need a top baby face on Raw, and I find with Liv Morgan turning heel, Rhea Ripley being out, like Lyra Valkyria is that, in Ilya Dragunov you can just expect to like murder the opponent in the ring. And everybody's behind it.
Yep, 100%. They have so much talent right now, just
they
at
do
their fingertips, and it feels, you know, with these smaller match cards, it's nice that, you know, like I said, like that's why I feel like this Braun Breaker match is so refreshing, because like, oh shit, like that's a heavy hitter who has not been on a PLE like before. Like you can sub in X, Y, and Z, this guy, that girl, and like it's still a solid match card, and you can keep it 5 matches, the Triple H special. So yeah, I think overall the hype for Money in the Bank is there. I think it's great that you will be there. I don't know if I had mentioned earlier in the episode, but I will actually be at Raw as they're in Boston on Monday. So I'm very excited for that card, because I believe we got the triple threat match with Drew, Sheamus, Ilya. I want to say there's a Liv Morgan match. I forget who she's facing. And then there was like Selena. And then there was like one of them matches that night where I was like, oh, it's Dom and Ray. I was like, bro, that was a Mania match.
Yes, sir.
Like, I'm getting to see a Mania match at Raw. I'm in. So it's shaping up to be a good card on Raw. We had that presumably final men's qualifying match there. I could see it going anyway. But like I said, if Drew gets in, I do not see him winning. So I almost feel like adding in Sheamus or Ilya, both insanely strong competitors, would probably be the better move. Just because, again, I feel like it's just predictable that Drew doesn't win. He just does not need that title. He just does not need that title right now.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, that's the payoff. I'm excited to be at Raw. You'll be at the event, Money in the Bank, very soon.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you. I can't wait to watch that live. But that's it, man. We have covered a lot of ground in very little time. I appreciate you so much for coming on this episode, and hopefully, maybe the door is open for content again. Definitely would love to have you come back on the podcast in the future if you are
anytime,
ready, willing, and able.
Yes, sir. Anytime, man. I'm like one message away on all platforms. Hit me up whenever.
Yeah, bro. Well, if you guys do want to check out Matt's stuff, he is still representative of the FTI Studios, so you guys can always go give a follow, even if it is on the back burner. Still show some support, show some love. He's still active over on Twitter. I don't know, is your Instagram still pretty active, or
So honestly, not a whole lot's going on social media wise, but with that being said, if you were to check out FTI, you have a nice 3 years of hundreds of content creators and artists to check out. So maybe we posted someone in a newsletter from a year ago, but they're still popping today. Go check them out. Go check out, honestly, anybody that makes you happy. And then at Money in the Bank too, let us know down below who your dark horse is and who your winners are too.
Hell yeah. Let us know in the comments, on the shorts, everything, who you guys are feeling. And you guys already know we will have a cast after Money in the Bank, likely to talk about the fallout and whatnot. And we're going to keep going, man. The story continues, just like the name, as we talk more for every PLE, every development. And yeah, I'm going to head out and go to Raw. He's going to head out and go to Money in the Bank. And we're going to just continue being passionate as wrestling fans, because as you can tell from our first actual real-time interaction between the two of us, there's just a chemistry that is just established with any wrestling fan. And you spoke upon that earlier with how you just show up in Toronto and it don't matter if you're an internet star. It don't matter if you're literally a nobody from the suburb that nobody's heard about. It don't matter. You are a wrestling fan, and for one night only at that event, everyone becomes family. You're a united crowd, and you're all cheering for different people, presumably, but cheering for wrestling. And that's why these events are so exciting. I can't wait, even just for a measly Raw. There's so many developments now with the Wyatt Six involved. We didn't even talk about.
We didn't even. We did it.
There's so much happening in WWE, and then if you're really a wrestling fan, you still got AEW. Forbidden Door is just around the corner. Wrestling's cooking, man. Wrestling is back, cooking, and I can't wait, man. Money in the Bank. Oh man, we are just on top of the world, and this build to SummerSlam is gonna be a damn good one. Any closing remarks before we send it off?
Honestly, man, you actually took the words out of my mouth. The chemistry between two wrestling fans when they talk, going from text based on Discord to actually talking about wrestling on the voice channel, man, nothing greater. I appreciate the hell out of this. Thank you for allowing me to come nerd out about wrestling. Anytime. Now I get to go to the living room, watch SmackDown, and see what happened.
Yes, sir. And then we'll be getting through it, and we're like, damn, the whole podcast is irrelevant. We were wrong. That's how this shit goes. But all right, guys, I hope you are able to continue your story. I hope you continue to show support on the shorts and the podcast and the channel. We're going to keep going, man. Like I said, there's events year-round, so we have no signs of stopping. I've been having a lot of fun with this, and I'm glad that someone can just hop on the podcast and have fun with a one-off, with their first appearance. So we're gonna continue as planned. Until the next one, peace out, and thank you guys for watching. Enjoy Money in the Bank, and we'll see you in the next one. Adios.
Yay.
Yay.